You got to be your biggest kind of angel investor almost in the sense where it's like, yeah, you got to do what you got to do in order to get it done. So it was like what Sam Walker said something when it was like one of the very first times I met him, and I was like, bro, like, what do you do? And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like outside of comedy, what do you do? And he's
Yeah.
like, Danny, I do whatever it takes.
What's going on, man? Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, bro. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Mr. Texas now, eh?
Oh, still an Alberta boy though.
Yeah, yeah, down deep down. Yeah, we'll get to that. But what was the one word that came to mind for you?
I would say faith.
Faith.
Faith,
Okay.
faith or belief.
Let's see where we go with it. Why why those two? Why does
Well, you
faith
have
come
to
to
have
mind?
you have to believe in the process and you have to have faith in the process as well as faith that everything is going to unfold the way that it's intended to, I guess.
And I guess within that too, you have like that's I think the best part about being a comic is like or having any type of like passion, even if you're doing other stuff on the side, you always have this sort of driving factor. Even if you're like as I get older, I start to understand religious people more, like in terms of the word or the concept faith, like where that kind of comes from, because I'm like, oh, it that's like their thing. It gives them like a life purpose to go to church every Sunday and see the people in their community that like are on the same kind of wavelength their life is in. Same thing as going to a comedy club and seeing other people, grinding and hustling in their own way.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, I can't remember where I heard it. I don't know if you said it on a podcast or something, but for you, there was like a turning point like in your stand up, right? There was like one show or something that you did where you just decided that you were gonna not necessarily just go, okay, here's all the jokes that I've written. I'm just gonna tell you how I feel right now in this moment. And I think it was like a show that was going bad. You were like, well, fuck it. I'm just gonna lay in to these people.
Yeah, I think there's been like multiple points in like I guess just my career and growth as like a just a comic and like a performance artist where it's like there's been like other ones. I'm not necessarily too sure on like what you're being like specific on, but there's been like times where I'm like, oh, okay, like there's one point where I'm like I wasn't really satisfied with the way my style of writing was, nor like kind of I was just sick of what I was doing. So then there was like a point in time where like for 6 or 7 months, I basically just didn't really write jokes or tell them. I kind of just went up there and like freeballed like pretty much majority of my sets and kind of just like riffed or like I would write things like maybe seconds before going up or I would tag like the comic before me and kind of go on their thing and stuff like that. But there was like that process and then yeah, that one was kind of like the big huge wake up one where I'm like, oh, okay, like there's generally people that are funny, and they can write their bits and they do all this stuff, but then outside of their writings or their they have no play action or they have no like the gift to riff or they have nothing where it's like, oh, okay, these guys are just joke robots, where they can go out and write their set and then anything that ruins their set or if something throws gets thrown in the middle of their way, they're shook and they're rattled, right? So it's
Right.
like I find that like personally is something that really differentiates, or if I'm saying the word right, or really make kind of is the difference between a person that can be funny and a funny person.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's very true. And I
Yeah.
feel like as a comic, because live performance is so unexpected, like literally anything can happen at any moment. You could be like midway through your perfectly written setup that you've done 100 times and you know it works, and then a waitress just like spills drinks everywhere. And now
Yeah.
everyone's all of a sudden like focused on that. If you can't like find a way to like make that funny, then you're gonna it's gonna kind of shine through basically on the type of performer you are. I think like hosting is one of those things where it's like you really like harden that ability to just kind of riff because you are the person that's keeping the room spirits up, dealing with things in the crowd, and then setting it up perfectly for the comic to have a good set.
Oh, for sure. I find the host has to probably be the most skilled person on the lineup or like thing. Like it's weird in a sense where it's like a lot of like newer comics don't want to host, or like in America here they put the newer one to host, or the one with the least experience. While in Canada, it's
It's
like
crazy.
you're a middle before you are a host, right? So it's like
Yeah,
in Canada, I find the host is like a covenant spot where it's like that could be a make or break of the show, right? So
yeah.
yeah, I find hosting is a very a big skill set that a lot of people kind of don't really necessarily step into or want to kind of like do that. A lot of people just want to do their stuff and leave, but don't understand that hosting is a pretty big duty as well as like an honor, I guess, kind of.
Yeah. It's gonna be one of those things too that has like positive returns no matter what. Because like I said, like you might think like those people aren't thinking long term, right? They're viewing it as like a lower position in the lineup to be like just the host. Because how often does a host get told after a show like, "Have you ever thought about trying comedy? You should do
Yeah,
comedy
yeah,
too."
yeah, yeah. Oh,
You're
you,
like,
you should headline her. Like, how come you don't do a longer
yeah.
set?
Yeah, you're like, no, but like you're it's going to the gym. Like you're doing those reps while hosting, and then when you do get to do your set, it's gonna be a lot like you're gonna be having fun. And that's the best part of that. Um, I wanna like transition to talking about you winning the 2021 Seattle comedy competition because for someone from Canada to be like, I'm gonna go over into, an American territory where typically it's Americans that win that competition, and then to come out on the other side of it, like, did you feel like you were sort of now riding that new wave of like, I'm just gonna, I'm a funny person, I'm just gonna be myself and like audience connected with that or
Um, like during the tournament?
yeah, like during that tournament, like what was like your mindset like for,
My mindset was like, it was actually a pretty crazy time for me because I was dating a girl for like 5 years and I was about to get engaged and everything like that. But then it blew up. And then I basically had to like fly back to Toronto like a week before the tournament started and then get all my stuff and put it into storage and do all these things. So like my mindset going into it was like, I have nothing to come back to. That was my thing where I was like, I have nothing to come back to. I'm back home. I'm a loser in my eyes.
Mm,
So the only way of coming back is with the title or coming back as a winner, where I'm like, I'm not coming home unless I win, kind of thing like that.
right.
And then throughout the whole tournament, that was kind of my thought process. But then I was also like thinking where I'm like, yeah, there is no other option. Like, like I didn't come this far to get this far kind of thing. So it was like I had to kind of, I don't know, just dig deep. But then I would see like different things where it's like there's two fatigues in that tournament because it's a month long, where it's like you'll have material fatigue, but then you'll also have mental fatigue. So I saw
Mm,
people that were like, giving up a month away from their family or a month away from their kids or a month away from like, their life and all this stuff. So then mentally they were starting to crack. But on my side, I'm like, I have nothing. I'm like, this
right.
is this is my life. So
Yeah.
that was kind of something where it was like heavy on my mind where I'm like, okay, I need to win. I need to do all this stuff. So I wasn't really like going in nervous. Of course you are, I guess, always nervous with the performance and
Right.
doing like this. Will these guys accept me? But it was like I was just like, oh, well, I'm gonna shine. I'm gonna be the high energy person that I am, as well as like just I'm just gonna bank every like ability point that I have, and then go on. But that was my whole thing was I have nothing back home, so in order to come back home, I have to come back with something in my hands. So that was kind of like my whole mantra of that month-long tournament.
Now were you doing like just the shows like that were, set up for the tournament or were you trying to like catch spots around
Oh
Seattle?
no, I was just in battle mode. There's no other energy was getting diverted to anything else. It was just focus on my set, do my, my mental preparations as well as my walks and listening to my jokes and then kind of figuring out, okay, these are who are the guys that I'm playing with, right? Because you can figure
Mm,
out within the first couple days who are the front runners. So it's like, okay,
right.
who do I got to worry about? What are they doing? But then also it was just more so like these guys would go out and party after the show, and I would just go, back to the local 7-Eleven, grab my two taquitos and my hot bag of chips and my Truly, and then I would have that would
Yeah.
be my decompression where I'm like, okay, these guys would go out and get drunk, and I
Right.
would just have my two cans and
Yeah.
and eat my Doritos and taquitos and kind of like just go on with it.
Yeah, good. It's funny that you say that because my next point was going to be like, you're a pretty healthy guy. How do you balance, like staying like active and healthy with like also doing this job that requires you to be out into the late hours of the night, and then the only thing open is like a 7-Eleven, which I understand why you would be like, well, I guess I'll get my food here. I just got done a show and it's midnight.
Yeah, well, like I don't know. Typically, you'd find like a diner or whatever. Like, there's always like late night things like that. But I've always been like a healthy person and like kind of active and stuff. So that's like kind of like that's something that grounds me, and that's something that I have to kind of always stay on top. But it's also like sometimes you'll fast or whatever during the day and then have it, and then other times it's like the fitness allows you to kind of pig out and do all that. But I don't
That's
know.
true. Because you're
It's just
burning
been
so many calories, right?
yeah, and being in bars and like doing all that. I've been doing this what almost 17 years now, so it's like it's nothing, you know what I mean? Like it's
You had
almost
to
half
you had to
my.
build that habit almost like before even getting into
Oh
stand up. So it's like
yeah.
just another and the pillar thing that we're talking about in life, right?
Yeah, and like later on with age too, it's just like I don't know, I got all my going out partying and getting crazy and like, messed up and
Yeah.
all that stuff out in my
Oh,
20s.
that's
So
my
now like,
favorite part about being in my 30s is everyone around like midnight's like, I guess we better end it here. I'm tired. I gotta go to
oh
bed.
yeah, 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 the
Nobody
good
wants
old
to keep it going.
yeah, nothing good happens past midnight kind of phase.
No. And I'm like, you know what? I like this. I like this new mature crowd. We come out, we have a couple beers, have a good time, and they're like, all right, see you, everybody. Let's go.
Oh yeah, but then even in your 30s, it's like, okay, well, if I'm gonna like party tonight, I know my next 2 days are gonna be like pretty brutal. So it's
Yeah.
got to be a good night to kind of like,
Justify that for
oh
sure.
yeah, to rage, right? So it's
Yeah.
like what you do today always affects tomorrow. So
Yeah. Hold on, there's a photo here that I want to share for people watching on YouTube. Thank you. Hit that subscribe button while I'm bringing this up. This photo of you, is that you there in the bottom of or is this a photo that you just uploaded of someone? I can't
oh no,
tell
yeah,
now that I
that's
looked
me.
at it.
That's me, man. I'm
Okay.
about I'm about 16 feet deep in the ground there.
That's insane. So like this is what I respect about you as like a stand-up. I feel like you are willing to literally get dirty by and then so like stop me if I'm assuming too much, but I imagine you did this very dangerous, risky job that paid a lot of money so that you were able to then start your stand-up career in America.
Yeah, so like when I got approved for like when I applied for my visa, I just ended up just packing up out of Toronto and then just shutting down for like 6 months to go work up in Fort Mac just to do like just industrial construction labor and all this kind of shit for like 6 months while I waited for my visa to clear and do all that just so I could stack a bunch of paper to do it. So it was that part was actually a difficult process mentally because virtually I sidelined myself for that 6 months, right? I'd do 2 weeks on, 1 week off, and then in the 1 week I would do like one or two shows. But meanwhile, at that time, that was when like JFL was going on, like all like the big festival. So I'm watching all my buddies do this festival, and I'm here at the mines just slave labor just to do it. But I also was like, okay, well, what I do now will virtually helped me propel myself for the next 3 years in America,
Yeah.
especially in that first year while I was in New York not making any money. So
Yeah,
it was
no, man,
like,
I think that's like hugely like admirable because not many people are willing to do shit like that. Like I can't remember who it was. There was an author. Um, it was either the guy that wrote 48 Laws of It might have been Robert Greene, or maybe I'm thinking of the guy that worked at The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield. Stephen Pressfield was like he's an author, and
yeah,
what he would do is he would literally like work a bunch of like random jobs, whatever he could get, in whatever city he happened to be in that time. Let's say he was in like LA. He was in LA, he would just try to get as many jobs. If you had to work on a farm and fucking harvest apples or work on a vineyard and like help them, whatever job that he could get, he stacked up his money. He lived as modestly as possible. He had like the shittiest apartment. He would save up all of this money. And then for 6 months, he would rent a cabin in the middle of the woods and he would just write
oh
nonstop.
yeah,
He would only leave to just go get food and come back and then just write. And then that was all he focused his mental attention on. And that really changed the way that I look at like creativity in general is like we're not all dealt the same, deck of cards here with like the way that we play in life. So sometimes you have to make that big sacrifice for the thing that you actually want.
Oh yeah, it's like that. I don't know if it's a Jim Carrey quote or whatever, but I always see it circling around like his, where he goes, "If you're not willing to sacrifice your current life for 6 months or however long it is in order to live the way you want to live, then you kind of don't really deserve it." But it's like, yeah, sometimes you just have to, like, I've always been a firm believer of a day job, right? Where it's like, some comics, they'll be like, oh, I'm not getting a day job, I'm not doing this. And then you see them kind of like not being able to live to the standard that they want to, or be able to, like earlier in my career, it's like, yeah, okay, I had this day job to subsidize the trips to go on the road where I'm not making money, where I'm eating like $400 just to go to, say, Ontario for the first time, or to go to places where I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't necessarily need the comedy to pay, or I don't have to eat like hard-boiled eggs for 6 days. It's like I can go out and have that dinner, or I can go have those drinks and I can enjoy it and then come back with like, yeah, negative $200. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, now I've done Saskatchewan, I figured it out. Now the next time it's going to be good. So it's like I always say on the first kind of things, it's like you have to be willing to take the hit, in order to do it. It's like you're kind of investing in yourself. So, you
Yeah.
gotta be your biggest kind of angel investor, almost, in the sense where it's like, yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do in order to get it done. So it was like what Sam Walker said something when it was like one of the very first times I met him, and I was like, bro, like, what do you do? And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like outside of comedy, what do you do? And he's
Yeah.
like, Danny, I do whatever it takes. And then that stuck with me the whole, I was like, man, this guy's a real one,
Yeah.
Like,
And there's no
like,
shame in that either. Like you're like, yeah, he's here right now. He's doing he's doing the thing. And like
yeah,
in order to get him to that point, yeah, he's gonna do whatever he has to in order to make that happen.
yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I've always been like, yeah, firm believer of like, you got to do what it takes to do it and sacrifice these things, whether it's something you don't want to do. Like, you got to eat that shit sandwich and kind of just chew it with a smile,
Yeah. Yeah,
because
yeah, for sure. But
at
then it
least
just
you're at
like at
least
least
you're
when you
eating,
and yeah, for like the whole starving artist thing, it's like it's nice if you live in a van on a beach in LA, and
Yeah.
you're showering at the gym or whatever, but like you can't be a starving artist in Michigan.
No,
You know,
well, yes, yeah, yes and
I
no,
don't
right?
I you
Like
can,
this.
but I don't know if it's advisable for your mental health.
Yeah, well, you get to a certain point, right? Like in your earlies, like when I started, at 18 or whatever, 18 to 25, I was fine with just being like, scraping ends meet, doing all these things, crashing on couches, doing all these things. But at a certain point in like adulthood or just manhood, you have to be like, okay, well, I can't be doing this like this anymore, right? So you
Yeah.
have like a standard of living to uphold, and there's no shame in the game of having to have the day job, and
Hmm.
do what you got to do
Yeah.
in
And
order to kind of, fulfill that quota of whatever it takes.
yeah. And then there's real, like, it's corny to say, but I think anything that's corny just means that there's actually some truth to it. When people say, like, everything happens for a reason, like, there's always a reason why you decided to go one way over another way. There's a little more beyond, I think, your like personal decision making. There are some choices that you're presented with that just make the most amount of sense to you at that time, and that's why you did that thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's like, I don't know, like I am a religious person and stuff like that. So it's like that's why I did pick like faith, but you have to have faith in the process and the reason why. And it's like, I don't know, I'm a firm believer of everything's kind of written already. So it's like some things that may be happening to you that are bad ultimately end up being good in the
Hmm.
end, right? Or like, with my choice to go to New York over Austin in the first time, it's like I kind of needed to go there even though I was eating shit for the year, not making any money, just hemorrhaging everything, but that leveraged me in order to get to here in Austin, but then also built the connections that I had in New York, kind of helped me build US credit, all these things, right? So it's like
Yeah.
a lot of people can say, "Oh yeah, sure, you wasted a year in New York on your visa," but I don't think it was a waste at all.
No, I think you made probably valuable connections there. And then you get this really cool, like if you're writing the book of Danny Martinello, you get this really cool story arc where you're in New York eating shit, hemorrhaging money for the year. You go to Austin and then you come back to Madison Square Garden. I mean, like you
Yeah.
couldn't write this shit.
Yeah, well, honestly, it was a trip, man, because like a year ago, like to that date, I was up in the stands in the nosebleeds watching all of this, seeing my friends up there, hear the call of Ron White and all these things, and I'm like, okay, I gotta go to Austin, like something special's happening there. And then
Hmm.
I come back and then I'm at the garden and I'm doing all this shit, and it's like, like a year ago, not even like maybe if you looked at it like 6 months ago, I'm begging for spots in like shit rooms in Brooklyn, dude.
That's crazy. You never know
Yeah,
what's
man.
gonna
Like
happen, man. It's like,
like begging,
yeah,
begging for
yeah,
7 minutes to go up into a room of people
yeah,
that don't like appreciate my art or anything. And
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
just, trying to do all this shit. And then that also happens with the like betting on yourself,
Hmm.
like having the faith and having the belief of like, yeah, okay, everything's gonna happen the way it is and it's gonna turn up good and yeah, sure, this is like a heavy hand to put all the chips in, but at the end of the day, it's like fuck the river's turning up Danny. So
Yeah, there you
you know?
go. That's gonna be the name of your next album, just you in a rowboat. The river's
Yeah.
turning up Danny.
Yeah.
A little long, but we can make it. You mentioned that you're religious. Like, what is it about religion that you, I don't know, enjoy partaking in,
Um
for lack of a better question?
I don't know that there's something greater than us, that there's something to, strive for. There's something that's beyond, there's things that are uncomprehendable or the mystic, or there's things where it's just like, whoa, what's happening? Or like something,
Hmm.
unfolds. And to me, it's like, it's a good thing to have, right? You'll have like I don't know. You look at atheism and people that are like, bleak and like there's nothing exists. There's this all it's you.
Well,
It's
it
like,
can't be
well, why?
nothing.
Well, it's a lack of imagination. I look at it. It's like, why
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
you want to believe in something that's like whether it's you're spiritual or whatever, right? Like
Hmm.
everybody has their different path. I think the end of all faith is, rooted in the same thing, but it's like, I don't know. To me, it's something that's gives me peace, it gives me hope, and it also gives me something to look forward to, as well as where it's okay, I can't explain this, or I'm going through these things, and something that gives me, peace and hope and
Hmm.
prosperity and stuff where it's just nice and it's good message and all that other things, but there's some things where I'm like, oh, I can't explain this, what happened, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and
why
it
is
goes
it?
back to those like making those sort of like decisions that lead you in a certain path in life that you never expected. There is a sort of like comfort in even when times are tough, reflecting on that by being like, yeah, but like God is a plan for me. Whatever you think God
Sure.
is, but like that universal like uh, I think about this even with ideas, like where the hell does an idea come from? And I think that like there's a constant like source of information that's flowing into our brains that like people get the same idea actually at the same time, but it's about who at that moment has the resources to be able to bring that into the physical world. Like, how many times have you heard someone when Uber started being like, I had that idea 10 years ago? And you're like, you might have, but like you didn't do anything with it. You
Yeah.
know, you didn't have the ability to bring that thing and make it like a possible, it wasn't the right moment for you to conceive that idea. But like I do think there is like some higher something that's like, I don't know, directing each individual in a certain way.
Yeah, I think so.
There's that whole like even like that saying like the kingdom of God is within. And I think that's a really like powerful thing to say because when you think about like the way that you think of yourself, thoughts like if you have constant negative thoughts or you're always talking down about yourself, your life actually feels like it's getting worse. And it's almost like you are your own piece of God that's creating things in front of you. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
can create something from nothing. Everything you look at was created by someone.
Yeah, and they say that we were made in the create like the image of God, so it's like there's a little bit of us that is like sort of I look at myself or other humans as if every human is a demigod, right? Where
Mm,
there's a piece of the creator in you, so it's like, well, if you were created by this and in his image and his likelihood, then why would you live a life that is negative or a life that is unfulfilling, or how can you not, like why would you be here if you weren't destined for something great or something to
right.
put positive into the world or something like that. So it's like, I don't know, it's a nice little armor for me too, right?
Yeah.
Wherever something happens or something bad goes wrong, it's like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
look at Jesus, buddy. That guy was put on the cross. You know
Look
what
at
I mean? My
Jesus,
life
buddy.
ain't that bad, bro.
Yeah, there's always a good
So,
comparison to draw to being hung on a cross. You're like,
yeah,
well, it's not
exactly,
that
right?
bad. My
But
feet hurt, but
even
it's
in through that process, he did it with grace and smiles and knew it was
yeah.
okay. So it's like if I can, what, dude, bomb in front of 138 people, you know what I
We're
mean?
like
Like,
50,000.
oh yeah, dude. But
Oh
so like,
man.
but I
And
don't know. I just go out and try to have fun, and everybody's gonna have a bad day, and everybody's gonna
yeah.
be dealt the shitty hand. So it's like, how well can you play the hand you were dealt?
I think that mentality is the best way to look at even social media because so many people with social media, it's like a clout race. They're like, how can I look the most impressive to all my friends and whoever? And that really like just makes people feel shitty, like when
Well,
you're 16 feet at the bottom of a mine, digging for oil, but you're doing it to eventually get you to this place. You have to have that mentality of like, no, I'm happy for them. I'm doing my thing right now.
yeah.
That has nothing to do with me,
Well, yeah, and it's
you
like
know?
it's also like so I was reading a lot of books on like Stoicism and a whole bunch of like Greek, philosophy and old Roman philosophy and stuff like that. And it is it's the amor fati, It's like love one's faith or fate. You can have one that's, someone's always got a shittier hand than you or a shittier thing, and it's like this is what you're here for, so you might as well enjoy it, right? Like
Mhm.
there were many days while I was on the patch where I'm like, man, like this fucking sucks. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the people I'm with too,
yeah.
like some of them are very
I bet there's lifers there, right? They've
oh
been
yeah,
going
there's
there for like
lifers
30 years.
30 years, but then there's also guys that go and make that 7, 8K in the 2 weeks, go to Mexico, blow it all, come back poor and all
Right.
this, right? So it's
Yeah,
like
totally.
you have these things where it's just like, okay, well, why not enjoy it? You're making good money. You've made some friends for life. You've also seen the other side of what it is, to be Albertan, where you're
Hmm.
like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
like it's a cheat code to go back, but it's also not a life to live, right? You're like in camp for 2 weeks, you're slaving for 12 hours. By the time you finished your workout, it's already time to go to bed. You have no life besides waking up and working.
Right.
So it's like, if you look at that picture, yeah, sure, that was a hard day, 12 hours of chipping away, doing crazy shit, but I'm doing it with a smile. I'm enjoying it, right?
Right.
Because even
Because
with the
it's a
guys where
means to an end. It's not like it's not the end thing for you.
well, yeah, and it's like I knew there was an exit. Some guys don't know there was an exit, so it was like I was a of fresh air for these guys too, where I'm like, man, just, like
Yeah.
we're all here for a reason. What yours is your daughter, mine's to go tell dick jokes in
Yeah,
America.
yeah,
So it's like we got to
yeah.
do what we got to
I,
do.
I think too, it's like really important to like make those like every so often, maybe like every 4 years, every 5 years, make like a radical change in your life, whether it's like moving to a new city or like starting a new job or, going somewhere and trying something that you haven't tried before. Because like I think the only way to get perspective on how you've been living is to make that big change. Because when your whole environment changes, especially like I'm just experiencing this now, moving cities. I was in Ottawa for 4 years and just moved back to Toronto. And so it's like big new job, new apartment, new area of Toronto I've never lived in before. And so I get to finally now reflect on the way that I was living for the last 4 years and pick out the valuable lessons that I learned from that. And then don't bring in the bad habits that I picked up during that time period.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's I think travel is a big part of it too, where it's like you'll see people that haven't really left their home city or hometown or whatever, and they're really like, wouldn't say bigoted, but they're closed-minded and ignorant to a lot of things too, right? Where it's
Hmm.
like if you see a lot of people who travel, they get to see how a bunch of other people live. They get to see how, things are or their own kind of like beliefs change and everything else. So it's like, yeah, I think you gotta step out of that comfort zone and step out of, your mundane routine, right? Where it's like complacency kind of kills, right? So if you're just complacent with your life and you're all right, well, whatever dream you had, sure as shit's not going to come to, fruition. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you get too comfortable, then it's like, what are you really doing? I always feel like you have to be a little bit on the balls of your feet and that kind of stuff
That's why
too.
working out's good. You got to be a little like be a little uncomfortable at times, right?
Oh, for
You
sure.
know,
You
you're like,
got, you got to,
can I
yeah,
lift this weight?
yeah, man. You got to get the testosterone
Yeah,
pumping too.
yeah, yeah. No, Danny, there's a question that I always ask all my guests, and the
Yeah.
question is it's essentially like, what advice would you give to your younger self? But I want to apply like a different context to it. I want you to think of you at 15. So like where you were at 15 years old, who you were at that time, and the phone rings and it's you now on the other end, and you can give your younger self a piece of advice. What would you say?
I'd probably say don't be so I don't even really know what the word is, but I would say like don't be so not spiteful, but then even again that was the attitude that I had where it was like propelled me to be where people said, "Oh, you can't do this or don't do that." And I said, fuck it, I'm gonna do it and I'll show you I did it." I'd probably say give yourself more grace. That's what I would probably say. I'd say give yourself grace and don't worry too much what the cool kids think.
Good
Yeah.
advice. That's good advice.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'll
And be
share.
okay with being weird. That's what I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're all a little fucking weird. That was the big secret that nobody let on. We're
Yeah,
all a
don't
little
don't be
weird.
so yeah, don't be so hard on yourself and it's okay not to know everything. That's what I would tell them. Say you're not supposed to know everything.
Yeah. I'm gonna share for people watching here. They can follow Danny on Instagram. It's at Danny Martinello. Go check out his OnlyFans. It's right there in the link.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm contractually obligated to have an OnlyFans for 6 months.
Is that what your pimp said, or?
No, no, I taped because OnlyFans is doing like these OnlyFans TV and they're branching off into like a
Okay.
comedy kind of thing. So I taped for them last week and contractually I have to have an OnlyFans because they're trying to treat it like a Patreon instead of
Yeah,
just
they're
a
trying to
porn
change the
site.
imaging of it.
Yes.
I love that. I mean, go for it. Hey, another streaming service that we can make money on doing comedy. Like, well, let's welcome that.
Yeah, well, it's a big old paycheck too, so
Yeah, yeah. You're like, yes, sir. And
yeah, yeah.
it's dannymarnell.bandcamp.com if you want to grab his two albums there, the EP COVID Operations and his new album Starting Sober. Danny, it's fun chilling. Is there anything else that you want people to check out?
Yeah, check out my Instagram, check out my YouTube. Um, that's pretty much it. Just check out your local library too. Find a nice book that you can read,
Yeah.
and check out that girl's ass you've been wanting to talk to this whole time.
There we go. Thanks so much for hanging out, man. This was fun.
Yeah, no worries, bro. Thanks for having me. I was kind of waiting to see when I was gonna do this. I had all my
Oh,
buddies
no
were
way.
doing it. Yeah, I
Okay.
said, I said,
I
when's Johnny gonna ask me?
Okay. If there's any comics listening to this that are having the same thoughts as Danny right now, just reach out. I'll put anyone on that just reaches out. You can come back anytime, man.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
All right, man. I'm gonna log off here, but have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too as well, brother.
All right, peace.
Bye.